An unprecedented scene shook Buckingham Palace to its core. On what seemed like a quiet morning, the furious voice of King Charles echoed through the palace's gilded corridors. Servants turned pale, guards froze in place. Everyone held their breath as the king shouted with rage at the last person anyone would have expected, Queen Camilla. According to leaked insider sources, King Charles had uncovered an unthinkable truth. A priceless piece of royal jewelry had mysteriously vanished from its secure vault. And as the investigation unfolded, all clues pointed to one name: Camilla, the very woman he once defied all royal tradition to crown as queen. The king's fury was not just about a missing heirloom. It was the explosion of long-standing suspicions and quiet disappointments that had simmered for far too long. What really happened behind the grand walls of Britain's most iconic palace? Did Camilla truly take the missing royal jewel? And if she did, what was her purpose? Was it a careless mistake or a glimpse into a far more elaborate scheme unfolding in silence behind closed doors? This scandal is now sending shockwaves through the nation, raising serious questions about loyalty, power, and the secrets buried deep within the grandeur of the Windsor dynasty. The crown may glitter on the outside, but within its velvet lining may lie a truth darker than anyone dared to imagine. Did Camilla truly take the ring? And if so, why? That is the central question in an incident currently shaking the inner workings of the British royal family. For delving into the details of the fierce confrontation between King Charles III and Queen Camilla at Buckingham Palace, it is essential to take a broader look at the underlying cracks. These cracks have been quietly festering between these two powerful figures for some time. It all began when Camilla stepped into the role of queen consort. Initially, her position was viewed by the public and the royals as a traditional supporting role. She stood beside the king, performed symbolic duties, and upheld the image of a loyal spouse. However, over time, that role began to shift quietly but noticeably. Camilla's influence grew. She appeared independently at public events and spoke in interviews without prior approval from King Charles or senior palace advisors. Some observers noted that she was gradually stepping beyond the traditional mold of a consort. This role was historically built on close coordination with the monarch. This growing autonomy raised concerns among some within royal circles. It not only disrupted long-standing protocols but also posed a question of, is Camilla simply seeking her own voice or quietly preparing for a far more powerful position? An official change in her status sent ripples throughout the royal household and beyond. The royal website, traditionally a reflection of the monarchy's ranks and roles, quietly updated Camilla's title from queen consort to simply queen. At first glance, this might seem like a subtle shift or a mere tweak in phrasing. In the delicate world of royal protocol, this seemingly minor change carried significant implications. The alteration was not without controversy. Reports suggest it met with some resistance. Chief among those who may have had reservations about the change was none other than King Charles himself. According to sources close to the palace, Charles supported Camilla's increasing presence in public life. However, he was reportedly not entirely comfortable with the shift in her title. This unease was particularly notable given that his mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, had publicly expressed her wishes before her passing. Camilla was to hold the title of queen consort. Despite this clear directive, it is believed that Charles may have ultimately agreed to Camilla being styled simply as queen. This was a symbolic but significant departure. Some saw it as going against his mother's explicit intentions. Queen Elizabeth had upheld the title of queen consort as a marker of royal tradition. It reflected a supporting role for royal spouses. Her public statement was widely regarded as a carefully considered effort to preserve that hierarchy within the monarchy. Camilla's growing autonomy was not limited to ceremonial roles. She began making decisions that extended into the operational aspects of the royal family. These decisions particularly regarded the management of King Charles's schedule and public engagements. Reports emerged that Camilla had taken it upon herself to cancel some of the king's scheduled appointments. She reasoned that they did not align with her personal interests or the direction she felt the royal family should pursue. These actions were seen as both a display of her increasing confidence and a sign that she was more than just a passive figurehead. When questioned by aides and royal staff about her decisions, Camilla's response was unapologetic. "It will do him no good. The Queen knows best," she is reported to have said. This statement spoke volumes about her belief in her own judgment and her expanding role within the monarchy. To some, this was an expression of self-assurance. To others, it was a sign of overreach. It indicated that she had begun making decisions without consulting the king. Camilla's actions, particularly her disregard for Charles's wishes, eventually led to an event that left the king stunned. She granted an interview without consulting him. This interview completely caught Charles off guard, in a move that sent shockwaves through the royal family and left the monarchy reeling. Camilla agreed to a private and highly unexpected interview. This interview would forever alter the trajectory of her role within the royal institution. The content of the interview was not only shocking, it was outright controversial. In it, Camilla openly discussed her vision for the future of the monarchy. She revealed personal plans that had never been shared publicly. More critically, these plans had never been discussed with King Charles. The interview was intended as a candid and insightful look into Camilla's perspective. It quickly spiraled into a storm of intrigue and tension. As she spoke about the monarchy's future, Camilla outlined bold strategies and initiatives she envisioned for the royal family. Her ambitions were undoubtedly grand. What particularly struck a nerve with those closest to the crown was her revelation of details about plans Charles had shared with her in private. These were plans he had entrusted to her, assuming they would remain confidential. The betrayal stung all the more because Charles had always relied on Camilla as a confidant. Hearing the intimate details of their private conversations exposed so publicly was a gut punch to the king. What was meant to be a strategic behind-the-scenes discussion about the monarchy's future had now become a public spectacle for the world to see. Camilla's openness about these personal discussions left Charles feeling deeply humiliated and betrayed. It was as though his trust had been shattered. This was not just by a spouse, but by someone he thought he could rely on more than anyone. For Charles, the betrayal was the final straw. He had always been a man who valued discretion and privacy. This public airing of their most intimate conversations marked a breaking point. The king had long been patient with the complexities of his marriage. This breach of trust forced him to confront a painful reality he could no longer ignore. The widening rift between him and Camilla was undeniable. It was time to face her directly and hold her accountable for her actions. The future of their relationship and the monarchy itself now hung in the balance. The explosive showdown trust shattered in the palace. The morning after Camilla's bombshell interview, a palpable tension enveloped Buckingham Palace. Camilla had been notably absent from the palace the previous evening. This was highly unusual, especially given the gravity of the situation. As the hours passed, Charles was visibly agitated. He was already a man under immense pressure. Sources close to the king described him pacing frantically around the royal residence. The palace's quiet was disrupted by his erratic movements. It was clear to onlookers that something had gone terribly wrong. Charles had demanded Camilla's immediate return to the palace after learning of her interview's contents. Insiders reported that his requests were met with silence. He received no response from his wife. The situation escalated when Charles was spotted in the palace grounds. He was either awaiting her return or firing off a series of frustrated messages to reach her. The king's distress was evident. This was not the calm, composed monarch the public knew. This was a man who felt betrayed and isolated. He was unable to find solace in his most trusted confidant. When Camilla finally arrived at the palace the next morning, her demeanor was nothing short of cold and dismissive. She reportedly walked past the royal staff with her head held high. She deliberately ignored their greetings. The air was thick with anticipation as she made her way to the meeting room where Charles awaited her. She entered with an unsettling confidence. Her eyes were steely, and her posture was rigid. The moment she crossed the threshold, it was clear a storm was about to break. Charles stood in the center of the room and locked eyes with her. His face was a mask of barely contained fury. As soon as their eyes met, he launched into it. His voice trembled. He spoke about how the monarchy wasn't a stage for personal agendas. He said she couldn't just say whatever she pleased without considering the consequences. Then came the part that stuck with everyone, how she had broken his trust. Camilla showed no remorse. If anything, people said she looked even more confident. She stood tall and unfazed. She fired back. She said she saw nothing wrong with what she'd done, but she was the queen and had every right to speak her mind. Her words stung Charles like a slap to the face, but it was clear this wasn't just about her public statements. There was something deeper. Something had been simmering beneath the surface far longer than either of them realized. In that charged moment, the king finally snapped. He unleashed a rage that had been building inside him for too long. His voice, now quaking with emotion, echoed through the room. "Who stole the king's jewel? Who stole my ring?" His words cut through the tension like a knife. He looked at her with eyes full of accusation. The answer seemed painfully obvious. The room fell silent. The ring Charles referred to was no ordinary piece of jewelry. It was the king's personal insignia. It was a symbol of his power, lineage, and authority. This wasn't just a treasured possession. It was a priceless artifact of profound historical significance. Losing it, or worse, having it stolen, was a devastating blow. This was not only to the king's personal life, but to the monarchy itself. The legacy of King Charles's pinky ring, a royal heirloom steeped in history. King Charles's pinky ring is far more than a mere accessory. It is a symbol of royal legacy, personal style, and a deep familial bond spanning multiple generations. First introduced into his public life in the 1970s, the signet ring has become one of the most recognizable pieces of his royal attire. It represents both his personal identity and his enduring connection to the monarchy. This ring carries far greater significance than its surface suggests. Its design and materials reflect centuries of tradition. It is an irreplaceable artifact. For Charles, it embodies the weight of royal heritage and a link to both his past and future. Crafted from Welsh gold, the ring weighs approximately 20 grams. This material is traditionally used for royal jewelry in keeping with the long-standing customs of the British monarchy. It is designed with the intricate crest of the Prince of Wales. This title is now passed to Charles's eldest son, Prince William. Despite its outward appearance as a symbol of royal grandeur, the ring also carries a darker undertone. Its deep emotional significance to Charles makes its loss a crushing blow. This loss would send shockwaves through both his personal life and the monarchy. The ring is not just a symbol, it is a connection to his heritage, his father, and his role as the future king. Its loss would sever a bond to the past. Charles has always held this history dear. It has grown increasingly fragile amid modern pressures. The story behind the ring is as much about royal tradition as it is a reflection of personal history. It was first worn by Prince Philip, Charles's father. He inherited it from his own father, Prince Andrew of Greece and Denmark. The tradition of passing down the ring has been upheld through 3 generations. This further solidifies its status as a royal heirloom. For Prince Philip, it was a constant reminder of his family's noble origins. It has been the same for Charles. Though worn on the pinky finger, the ring has always been a potent symbol of the wearer's tie to the British royal family. It binds each generation to the others in a deeply personal and tangible way. For Prince William, now the Prince of Wales, the ring carries even greater weight. It stands as a physical link between father and son, between the future and the past. As William moves closer to assuming the throne's responsibilities, he may one day wear this same ring. This would extend its legacy into the next generation. The ring's history is not just a connection to Charles's immediate family. It is a bridge to monarchs of the past. This makes its loss all the more painful. The royals search the mysterious disappearance of the ring. Following King Charles's long-awaited coronation, An unsettling incident swiftly unfolded behind Buckingham Palace's grand walls. The world had watched in awe as Charles was crowned king. Beneath the pomp and ceremony, a crisis was quietly brewing. In the aftermath of this historic event, a startling discovery was made. The king's prized pinky ring had vanished. As news of the disappearance spread, an air of disbelief and concern descended over the royal household. King Charles was typically composed and dignified in public. He was visibly shaken by the loss. Reports quickly surfaced that he had been in a near panic. He was unable to fathom how such a vital object could have slipped from his possession. The emotional weight of their situation seemed to take a toll on the king. He was now grappling with a crisis of confidence in both his personal life and royal duties. Behind palace doors, the royal household sprang into action. A thorough search was immediately launched. Palace staff and security personnel combed every inch of the sprawling estate. Days passed with little progress. The pressure mounted. Secretive meetings were held. Rumors began to swirl. Theories about the ring's disappearance ran rampant. Some suggested it might have been sold. This could have been by an opportunistic royal insider or someone with access to the king's private quarters. Others whispered that it could have been stolen. Perhaps it was by someone close to the royal family exploiting the situation for personal gain. Despite intense efforts to recover this lost piece of royal history, one person appeared indifferent to the crisis. This was Camilla, the queen. She seemed unbothered. She continued her usual duties and made significant decisions without acknowledging the gravity of the missing ring. While Charles was consumed by the mystery, Camilla reportedly pressed forward with her own agenda. She disregarded the toll it was taking on her husband. She made bold, unilateral moves in state matters. She acted as if the ring's disappearance were a minor inconvenience. It wasn't until her recent interview that the situation reached a boiling point. The interview was originally meant to showcase their unity and bolster the monarchy's public image. It proved anything but harmonious. During the exchange, Camilla's behavior and words crossed a line. This further strained their fragile relationship. The king was already on edge over the missing ring. He was left fuming. This led to a heated confrontation behind closed doors. It was evident that the ring's disappearance had pushed them both to their breaking points. It exposed fissures in their partnership that had long simmered beneath the surface. Revisiting the past, the deep-seated tensions between Charles and Camilla. The relationship between King Charles and Queen Camilla is one fraught with tension, history, and controversy. It is a royal saga steeped in emotion. It has unfolded under the public's intense scrutiny for decades. At its core lies Camilla's painful and prolonged vilification by the media. They cast her as the chief villain in the royal drama entangling Charles, his first wife, Princess Diana, and the British monarchy itself. For years, tabloids and the press portrayed Camilla as the woman who tore apart an already fragile royal marriage. Relentless coverage often painted her as the architect of Diana's suffering. It cast shadows of betrayal and scandal over her name. As a result, Camilla became a target of public scorn. The press's cruelty took a heavy toll on her personal life. Every move and every appearance was dissected under a magnifying glass. The constant vilification became a profound source of pain for the woman once so close to Charles. Throughout this period, insiders reveal that Camilla felt deeply isolated and abandoned. She felt this way by the very person she believed to be her greatest ally, Charles himself. Reports from those close to the couple suggest Camilla has long harbored a sense of betrayal. She was convinced that Charles did not do enough to shield her from the media's relentless onslaught. She had hoped he would stand by her more fiercely. She wanted him to leverage his position and influence to defend her honor. Instead, she often felt like a passive bystander in a drama beyond her control. To Camilla, it seemed as though Charles, the man she loved, failed to protect her from the fallout of their relationship with Diana. She was left to bear the full brunt of public outrage. These unresolved wounds from that era have never truly healed. Despite their eventual marriage and Camilla's ascent to queen consort, the lingering bitterness and hurt from the past remain a silent undercurrent in their relationship. Many royal observers suggest that their public facade may have appeared strong. Behind closed doors, the scars of their shared history remain. This is particularly Camilla's sense of abandonment and Charles's guilt over the past. These have never been fully addressed. With the weight of these past grievances still simmering beneath the surface, royal watchers began to predict that a moment would come. This would be when these tensions would reach a breaking point. It was no longer a question of if the issues between Charles and Camilla would resurface. It was when, beyond that, Camilla's rising power had also become a source of conflict between them. Current power struggles and tensions. In recent months, whispers and rumors have begun circulating within royal circles. They fuel intense speculation about Camilla's growing influence. Her actions have been interpreted by some as a sign that she is no longer content with a secondary role. This is particularly her recent interview, where she voiced her views on royal matters with uncharacteristic candor. This has left many wondering if she is asserting her authority. Is she preparing for an even more powerful position within the monarchy? Several high-profile decisions have made it clear that she is not merely a figurehead. She bypassed traditional royal protocols. Some argue she is shaping the royal agenda with increasing independence. This growing narrative around her influence has not gone unnoticed by King Charles. Following his wife's rising prominence, reports suggest the monarch has been striving to reassert his own authority. Sources close to the palace say Charles has been feeling increasingly sidelined. He has been actively working to regain control over the royal household. He wants to remind the public of his role as head of state. One of the most dramatic moments in this power struggle came when Charles reportedly demanded the return of his pinky ring amid the interview saga. This demand sparked a tense confrontation between the couple. Insiders describe it as nothing short of explosive. The confrontation that changed everything. As the confrontation escalated, Charles wasted no time accusing Camilla. His voice was thick with frustration. He claimed to have proof she had taken the missing ring, which he had searched for in vain. His demand was unequivocal. He wanted it returned immediately. Camilla remained silent for a moment. Her eyes narrowed as she processed his words. She didn't respond right away. Her expression was unreadable as she seemed to weigh her options. Then, with a defiance that stunned Charles, Camilla calmly replied, "What belongs to the king is mine." Her words were cold, calculated, and brimming with a sense of ownership and control. They caught Charles off guard. Without hesitation, she reached into her purse and pulled out the ring. She placed it on the table before him. Seeing it so effortlessly returned only fueled Charles's fury further. His frustration reached a boiling point. Unable to restrain himself, Charles exploded. "You are done," he screamed. There was no mistaking the anger in his voice. It was a declaration, a moment of reckoning. His face flushed with a mix of betrayal and rage. He felt not only personally wronged but deeply disrespected. This was by the woman who had once stood by him through the most turbulent times. Instead of retaliating in kind, Camilla reportedly turned on her heel. She walked out of the room. She left Charles staring after her in stunned silence. Royal insiders are long attuned to the dynamics between the couple. They now believe the rift between them has reached a breaking point. Once marked by a fragile understanding, their relationship appears to have fractured irreparably. What really happened behind closed doors, as rumors swirl about Queen Camilla's possible motives for the disappearance of the heirloom ring, royal observers have begun piecing together a dramatic picture. This is of what might have transpired within Buckingham Palace's walls. According to some sources close to the couple, Camilla had long shown a particular interest in the ring. It was a piece not only of symbolic royal value but also of deep personal significance. She is said to have repeatedly requested possession of it. She viewed it as recognition of her growing role within the monarchy. However, King Charles reportedly refused outright. To him, the ring was more than a treasure. It was part of his identity and personal memories. It was something not easily relinquished, even to his spouse. This persistent refusal may have driven Camilla to take unilateral action. She took the ring herself. If true, this was no impulsive act but a silent statement. Her influence and role no longer hinged on the king's permission. That very act also crossed a fragile line between power and trust. The ring, a seemingly inanimate symbol, has now become the catalyst for an emotional explosion. It shattered the delicate balance in Charles and Camilla's relationship. The fallout currently. Queen Camilla is said to have temporarily withdrawn from royal duties. The palace remains cloaked in absolute silence. The question now is not just will Camilla return, but can this royal marriage survive the shock? Could a small symbol like the ring shake an entire institution? The future of the British monarchy stands at a turbulent crossroads. What happens next will be watched closely by the world.